The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the host/guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any of BXR entities and those they represent.
Good evening. It's February, y'all. Good evening. This is Skylyne Radio Talk Show on Be Exposed Radio. I am your host, Skylyne Mark. On behalf of Marie Starr and Letitia Higgs, they are neither one here tonight. So it's just me. You stuck with me. Our special guest tonight is the Nicholas Smith. What's up, Mr. Nick?
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing almost amazing, believe it or not, after the day that I've had, but we're not going to talk about that. It's supposed to be my day off, get some rest and relaxation after the last 2-3 weeks that I've had, especially last week. And yeah, it's been a day from hell. But we're not going to talk about that because I got the rest of the evening. I got the show to do. I got the rest of the evening that I'm going to get about this house, even though I said I wasn't going to. But yeah. So first and foremost, everybody, I appreciate all the phone calls, all the text messages, the Facebook messages, Instagram messages, Twitter messages. Last week, this week, everyone that's called, text, whatever, to check on me this week, throughout the week, to see how I'm doing. I'm doing almost amazing. Thank you for all your prayers, your thoughts, and comments, and keeping my mom in your best wishes. She's doing good. I actually talked to her today. It's been 8 days since her procedure. She's up. She's out and about. She's supposed to be taking 2 or 3 more days to rest and recuperate, but you know, my mom is me and I'm the way I am because of my mother. So what can I say? She was down for a week and she was like, all right, that's enough. I got things I got to do. So, but she's good. She's not 100%, but she's close. The procedure went well. So what can I say? God is fabulous. So Mr. Nick, tell us a little bit about you, if I can get that all out in the right phrase.
So I actually run a mobile mechanic company. So if nobody actually knows what that means, it speaks for itself. But I travel to you and basically fix your vehicle. I am limited on certain things I can and cannot do. I'm able to do on the road or at your home. So I try to usually beat the shop prices. That's not always the case. Sometimes they can beat me, but most of the time they can't.
What shop prices can you not beat?
So usually the transmissions and like engine jobs, it tends to be the issue. Or I've had people that I've been working on their car and they had to get a whole new engine, and I tell them how much it's actually going to cost, even with them getting the engine, and they opted to take it to a buddy of theirs who has a shop because he's only going to charge them like $150. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't beat that. Not to redo a whole engine. There's no way.
Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, for me being on the road, it's or at your home, usually an engine job would tend to take, depending on the vehicle, tends to take roughly the whole day for me, because I am, I don't have the, I have the cherry picker and everything else, but I take pride in what I do. So I tend to be a little slower than whatnot, but I try to make it get done in a day, maybe 2. Summer, obviously, you have more light because I work with the light outside, so I do carry things with me to have light, but I tend not to try to be out there once I don't have full fledged light from like the sun. So I
Okay.
try to get things done beforehand.
I got you. I got you. Um, what's what mechanic shops do you refer your customers to, and why?
So I used to refer. Um, I mean, I still refer people to one place because the other person I used to refer to doesn't have his shop anymore. I refer them to these two people because I know they do a phenomenal job. Like on things that I cannot do personally, I'll say, "Hey, take it here." They do a phenomenal job. They're great at what they do. They've been doing it for X amount of years, and I say that because I know these people and I trust these people. I would literally trust these people with my and I put this out there with my life to work on my car. Enough to where if I trust them, I'm not going to ride something. I'm not going to get behind the wheel on something you know that I don't trust it's safe. So I wouldn't definitely do that for my customer. So if I do something for my customer or I send them somewhere because I can't do the work, I'm not going to send them to somebody that's just going to have them come back because they finagled something to where they have to come back. These guys, I
Right.
know they do a phenomenal job and they get it done right the first time. So, but the shop that's still open that I do happen to send people to if I'm not able to do it. Um, so Legacy Automotive, I send people who have Mercedes and Land Rovers and like high end European cars. I'll send them
Mm.
to Legacy Automotive, which is over off of Oakleaf in Reisterstown Park Heights area. Um, Eric, the guy who runs the shop, he's phenomenal what he does. He's been doing it for 40 plus years.
Wow.
his niche. So when it comes to Mercedes and all that, and Land Rovers and those high end European vehicles that are out there, I'll send them to Eric because I know and I trust him to work on something like that. I did work at Eric's shop for a small period of time, and I've seen how much pride he takes in his work, and he takes tremendous pride in his work. But he is a perfectionist, so he's gonna do it right the first time. He's gonna let you know what he finds along the way, and give you the option. Obviously, the same thing I would do if I find something. I'll give you the option of, hey, would you like to do it now, or we can do it later,
Right. Okay.
depending on what it is. But I tend to try to give people uh, but if I send anybody anywhere, it's either there or H&H. H&M Automotive, which is over in Highlandtown. His name is Luis. He's from the Dominican Republic, but when I tell you he can do some work, I lie to you not. He can do some like miracles when it comes to like cars. But to be
Okay.
honest with you, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you take it to Luis, it might sit there because he is extremely busy. Same thing goes with Eric. These guys do get extremely busy um, because they have a lot of clientele. But when it comes to me, I try to, if I can do it, I'll do it. I'm not going to say I can do it and I can't do it. Um, and I try to get it done that same day. Um, like, for instance, like I said, I won't do transmissions or engines on the road. Usually I won't. I'll send them to somebody. But if it like comes to like Hondas, like old school Hondas or Hondas with a sidewall transmission, those are so much easier. Same thing with the Mitsubishi Eclipses and things. They have things that have a sidewall transmission are a lot easier for me being on the road to do because they're literally right on the sidewall. Uh, they come right out the sidewall where the tire is, whether it's the passenger side or the driver's side, depending on where the transmission sits.
Okay.
Um, so, but yeah, those are the two shops I actually sent them to because Edric, which was my buddy who had a shop over off of Harford Road, he's no longer open. Um, he closed his doors because of the people he rented from. It wasn't the best renting situation, I guess he said. Um, but if I'll send people to Edric in a heartbeat because he's been doing it for 30 plus years, I believe it is. So he's been doing it since he was 20. He doesn't look like it, but he's in his 50s. But he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, and he works hard. He busts his behind to get everything done and whatnot. So those are the three people I would send people to if I had to opt out to work.
Right.
But usually when it comes to me, when I travel with these people, when I look at their cars, and I'll tell them everything that I see that's wrong. And if we can get it done that day, then we can get it done that day. A lot of times, certain things that you get at AutoZone or something like that might cost an arm and a leg. If it can be held off for a couple of days, I'll refer them to order it online because you're cutting out that middleman, and you're going to pay a lot less on the dime on parts than you would when you go to AutoZone or Advance or Napa or wherever the other stores are. But certain things, and sometimes you got to go to those big commercial stores to get those parts because you need your car right then and there.
Right.
And it's a major thing that needs to be done for it to run. But a lot of times I remember I needed me personally, I needed a mass airflow sensor for my Acura Integra. And AutoZone wanted $106, and I wound up getting it in 2 days from Amazon for like $6. So
wow.
it's a big dramatic difference. And I always try to save people money if they can hold off, and they're able to not have it for a couple of days and wait a few days to get the labor done. I try to save them as much money as I can because what people don't sometimes realize that when you take it to a shop, you're charging labor and parts. That's what they're charging you. And some shops don't like taking your parts that you get, especially if you order them online, because then they don't know if it's going to work. They don't know, if they're not responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people don't realize that when you take things to a shop, like even when you take it to these high-end stores or the dealer or whatever, there's some things. Like I remember, I had a customer. He had a what was it? It was a Chevy Malibu. He got a quote from the dealer for 2 rear shocks, and they wanted to charge him $1,200.
Wow.
And I had him order the parts, and I only charged him $4. And I got it done for him in like an hour. He didn't have to wait a whole another, and he would have to leave it with them and come back and get it. So he had to wait a couple days for the parts. And then when they got in, I think we got his parts for maybe $150 both shocks, which ain't bad. That's like $75 a piece for rear shocks, which ain't too shabby.
Right.
So by the time they came in, I was there the following day. So I always tell people, when you order online, say if it comes on Thursday, I'll be there Friday morning. Okay. And we'll start the labor because most of the time that delivery doesn't happen until later in the evening. So especially if it's something, big, or I know it's going to take a moment, I'll tell them I'll be there the following day of delivering because, people want to get back on the road. People want to make sure they can get where they got to go safely, safe and sound. And I'm all about that. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know someone that was dealing with, oh God, I don't even remember the Goodyear, I think. Yeah, they dealt with Goodyear for over 20 years and never had a problem, never had a complaint, nothing. Referred friends, referred family, never had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Had their wheels rotated on a Durango. This was like 7 years ago. And they were driving down 70 going towards Frederick, Mount Airy area. And the front passenger side wheel literally came off. It wasn't bolted tight properly. And I was like, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how that happens. But it's like, how did that happen? So can you explain that?
So what a lot of people don't realize is, they use these high impact guns, and yes, it has a major torque behind it. What happens a lot of times is when they put these high impact guns on it, it goes in and it tightens. But when you have massive rotation of a tire, and you know, um, so basically when you have the constant rotation over and over of a tire, and they're just using these guns, they eventually get loose. So me personally, when I have a gun, but I'll use the gun to where when even once the tire is back on, I still put my ratchet on there and make sure that it's like super freaking tight, because there's nothing worse. And I've seen it happen while driving. I've seen a van cut a corner, and next thing you know, the wheel goes this way, bouncing across the lane, and that causes more damage when that happens. So, like I said before, I'm all about safety. If I don't feel safe to drive it, I'm not going to have you drive it. Period. In a sentence. So, and people get mad at me because I'm like, look, it's not ready yet. For instance, I had a lady, and I mean, you can't always please everybody, and it happens. I had a lady, and I mean, I wound up fixing it and getting it done for her. But the problem was that I tried to explain to her that when it comes to valve cover gaskets, they swell with heat. So when I came out to do everything for her on her H2 Hummer, which is not common to work on. Most people don't work on Hummers because they're barely around anymore. Right. So I go out and I work on her. Well, she had I think it was an '06. So it has some years on it. Has what, 10 plus years?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. It has what, 17 years? Exactly. 17 years on it. So I go there and I work on a car, and I put the transmission mount on, because she was having some jerk from when you shift. So that's usually the transmission mount, sometimes depending on the jerk. Usually if you shift it or your engines, it's a motor mount. So I put the transmission mount on, did that for her, took off her valve covers, and there was so much gunk inside of it and I had a feeling there would be because of the gear, and then I could smell the oil. She had gas going into her engine, which is never good. So I told her, I said, look, and I wasn't charging her a lot to do the labor. I was charging her $200 to do the valve covers. I didn't charge her for the flush. I charged her like $60 to do the trans mount, which took me like all of 20 minutes. But shop, and you go to a shop, that would have cost her $150 off the muscle. Just as soon as they put it on the lip, $150.
Just like that.
Because that's a standard rate nowadays. It's anywhere between $125 and $150 just for the first hour, and every hour after that, it's $125 to $150, depending on where you take it. I don't charge by the hour. I charge by the job, and that tends to not break people's pockets as much. But so I tear apart. Her valve covers were pretty simple, but the problem was that by the time we had everything, and I try to leave it up to them to get everything. I helped her order the gaskets. They got delivered. I was there the following morning, but she had to go up and get some other stuff. I'm like, okay, well. So I tear everything apart, and then I literally had to take a screwdriver and scrape her valve covers, because there was so much gunk and burnt oil inside of her engine and depository inside of her engine. Like, personally, and she asked my personal opinion, and I gave her my personal opinion. She did not really care for it, but I said, she asked me personally, what do you think I should do with my Hummer? I said, honestly, get rid of it. Because we don't know if the gas is going to leak back in. So I replaced her. It's something to deal with the fuel intake. So that was supposed to hopefully stop it. So, but she was, so I replaced her valve covers more or less, but it was so much depository inside her engine. It was in crud and buildup, like she really didn't get, like it wasn't taken care of.
Right.
And the backstory of her Hummer, it came from a bail bondsman, so I don't know if it was taken care of. And I always, and I told her, I was like, look, we're gonna switch, since we're flushing your engine out. We're trying to get it cleaned out and get all that fuel and oil mixture that happened to be like it was a two-stroke or something. And I said, look, since we're flushing out, we're going to switch you over to full synthetic. That's how we're going to do this. You're going to have mechanics tell you, oh, don't do that because it's going to take away those depositories. I don't know if I have to edit how I say this, but
Same.
That's a fucking lie. It's a fucking lie. Full synthetic oil is the best oil. It's not refurbished, it's refined. It's better. It lasts longer. You don't have to get an oil change as often either. The reason you have to get an oil change every 3,000 miles is because it's recycled oil most of the time, and nothing to be. Jiffy Lube, they're famous for it. Recycled oil. That's what they're famous for. I had a customer that I had to fix Jiffy Lube's problem because they did an oil change, but they used refurbished oil. So, but no, so I did these valve covers for her, and it started to rain, and I'm like, I had to hurry up and get these done, but I didn't have time to get the injectors back on that night, so I had to come back the next morning and finish up because it started to rain, and I can't. Personally, I won't work on electrical. It's for the safety of me and the safety of your vehicle, not to work on electrical in the rain.
Exactly. That's just common.
You don't want to mess with oil in the rain. Anything mechanic wise, that's in general, you usually do in the rain unless you have something over your head. So I told her I had to come back the next day. Well, the problem with me coming back the next day, and I had to redo her gaskets over because I do give depending on what it is, I give a 30 to 90-day warranty, depending on the job that's done, depending on it. Because usually most people are going to be like, oh, this needs to be redone, as soon as they get behind it. But usually I'll know before I give it to them, but she opted to drive it without me testing it. I said, look, we got it done and everything. And I said, look, she has no fuel. I drove her to get gas. We put the gas in there. I said, look, I cut it on. Everything sounded great. Sounded great. I did a tune-up, valve covers, the trans mount, and the fuel filter canister, right? The air fuel filter canister, whatever she had on hers. So I did all this, and I think I charged her like $500 for all of it. It's cheap. I mean, that's cheap. I mean, if she took it to a shop, she would have been paying a shit ton more. I mean, a shit ton more. And
1,500, 2,000
or more.
And like you said, Hummers just aren't common no more.
They're not common, and they're easy to work on, but they're also a pain in the ass because to do like I'm 6'4". Okay, I'm not a little guy. My big ass had to climb up on the wheel and sit inside the engine to work on this car. Like legit, I had to sit inside the engine, had to kneel in the battery to and lean over the engine to get the back screw out of and I'm not complaining by any stretch of imagination. They're not common to work on. People don't like working on them unless they have a hobbyist that does. It's just not common for them to be worked on. I'd rather work on Mercedes, and I don't work on Mercedes. So there are two vehicles I do not work on. That is Mercedes, and anything to do with Land Rover, Range Rover, Land Rovers. They're the same thing. It's just one smaller than the other. So I don't. I opt out those all day long, and I usually opt them out to Legacy Automotive out on Oakleaf in Reisterstown. Uh, so it's and I don't work on those for a reason, because one minor thing, it's 20 million different bolts for one little thing.
Wow.
I will do like minor lube and tube type of stuff. I did an alternator for a guy, customer of mine. I did an alternator for him and then I did a tensioner pulley. His tensioner pulley was in his serpentine belt. It was completely like it was melting. His tensioner pulley was melted to the casing. Yeah. So I took him up to AutoZone, got the part that day, and did the labor that day. And I think I charged him like $200 for the serpentine belt and the pulley, which for a Mercedes, that's like nothing. That's like a penny out of the pocket when it comes to Mercedes, because it is. I mean, but brakes, rotors, things like that I'll do, but like nothing internal. And I don't do starters on them anymore because I had a girlfriend that almost died from me and her working on Mercedes together. Jack stands kicked out because we were on a slight slope and I didn't realize it, and car dropped on her. Yeah. Wow. And then this crazy girl, but here's the thing. I thought I killed her. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I legit thought I killed her, and I'm freaking out because she didn't say anything. She didn't even give me a grunt. Herb, get the jack under her, get the jack up, and she crawls out from underneath. She has like a lima, like a big ass knot here, and she has a little slice between her thumb and her index. I was like, "Yo, you're going to the hospital?" She's like, "No, we're going to finish this job." I'm like, "Yo, you're crazy." Little short Puerto Rican chick. But look, I ain't gonna lie. Ty was a rebel, man. She loved going out and getting dirty with me. Like we'll leave it. We'll leave in the morning, be clean as a whistle, and then come home. Her tank top be black as my legs and arms. Because in the summertime, I'll wear like jean shorts and a tank top, and like we'll just be dirty as all hell together. But yeah, that's how we were. She loved doing it with me. But I try, like I said, going back, I do try to beat people, shop prices. So like I said, sometimes I can, sometimes I can. I'm not by any stretch of imagination a miracle worker. Sometimes your car is gone, and people don't like to hear that and I get it. I've been down that road. I had two Integras, and I was tearing them one apart to save the engine and the trans because they both were good. And but by the time I got around to go doing it, the people got rid of that out of their yard, and I was screwed because my other Integra, the trans started going up in it. And me personally, I'm not going to go and get a used transmission from LKQ for $450 that I don't know if it works. Even though it has a warranty, but it wasn't worth it for me. So I opted out to sell it. And like I said, I know how it is to be demobilized. It sucks, and that downright sucks. I mean, I do eventually plan on having more equipment to where I can do more major jobs down the road. So if you ever see a little box truck with my logo on the side, it's probably me driving it. So that's the ultimate plan, to where I can have like one of those hydraulic lifts, and because I'm not getting any younger. I mean, we know, Mark. We know. I know you're younger than me.
I was gonna say, don't.
I know I'm younger than you. I get it. But working on the cold ground and in the elements, it does do a toll on the body.
It does.
A big time toll, and it would be a lot easier and a lot more efficient for me to do it if I had a mobile hydraulic lift. Can't put that in the back of a car. So, and with me driving so much, it's not good for me to be hauling 400 pounds of tools in the back of a car or even a small pickup truck. it's just not healthy for that vehicle in general. So I think that's also probably why I've been through so many vehicles myself. I mean, it's but like I was going to tell you a story before we started this, and you said hold off to it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I had a gentleman. What did he have? He had a that's what it was. He had a Jaguar. He got it from the auction. It wasn't running, right? Was not running. I got it running. Well, the problem was he needed, when the car broke down, the middle console switch that you push and turn and pops up and put it in drive and all that. The solenoid went bad, and I said, "Look, it's your solenoid. That solenoid. Get a new battery and get the solenoid. You'll be good to go." Well, he got the battery and it cut on with no problem, but the solenoid was stuck in place. So it was stuck in what was it? It was stuck in park. It wouldn't come up. So those mechanisms, when you press them, they're supposed to turn. When you turn the car on, it's supposed to pop up to where you can turn them. Well, this one didn't pop up, so he had to order a new one. But he asked me, he said, how much for an engine? He's like, I got the engine. I said, let me do some pricing and I'll get back to you. Like, I got back to him and I said, look, it takes X amount of hours, and shop rate is X amount of dollars. Between labor, time, and all that, you're looking at, like, I think I quoted him like $1,000, which, to do an engine on a Jag with, where you gotta make sure everything's calibrated right, it's all right and everything's good, and the timing is when it's right. It's time consuming.
Right.
So, I said, but to be honest, the lowest I can honestly go is like 850, 900. He said, I appreciate it. I was like, so I waited a couple of days and I hit him back. I was like, so, just checking in to see, because he said, let me think about it. I said, all right. So I hit him back a couple of days after, and he's like, yeah, I'm good. I got my buddy up in Pennsylvania. He's gonna do it for $600. I said, oh yeah, have fun with that. But here's what I don't. If I'm willing to charge you $900 to $1,000, right? And you live in Randallstown, like Booney's Randallstown, but then you're paying $6, for the labor. But that tow bill is gonna get you, because you're gonna have to get it towed there, and then he's gonna tax you for storage fee. He's quoted you labor. That's what he quoted you. I said, well, hey, do you? Best of luck to it. Best of luck to it, because there's no way I can beat $600. I'm coming from the other side of town. I'm 45 minutes from you, and I'm charging you no more than $1,000, which for that job alone usually is like $225 to $3,500 for a Jag engine. And I think his had a turbo. So yeah, turbos are always more expensive. People don't realize that. Don't ask me why. I can't answer that question. I'd be a liar if I tried to. It's just no. I mean, the engine itself is more expensive. They're, believe it or not, harder to find, and they're a lot more of a pain in the ass when you're replacing something on the turbo itself. Like I have a turbo outside right now. Turbo is great, but it's on a Volvo. It's on a Volvo station wagon of all things, which is kind of funny. But I like it. I mean, I'm tweaking things with it right now, and and whatnot. So But yeah, I mean, I like I said before, I just there's most of the stuff I will do and I can do. I won't lie to you and tell you I can do it, and I can't because that's wasting my time and your time. And I don't like playing with people's money because I don't like mine played with.
Right.
And I always
Understandable.
and I mean I know sometimes a lot of times labor when I give people a quote, it does seem like it's a lot of money, and you know it can be depending on what it is. But I do try to work with people, especially if you become like a regular client of mine. Um, I'll opt like I have a gentleman now. Uh, I used to work on his Volkswagen. He hated his Volkswagen. He finally got a new car. I'm so happy for him. But he wants a double din radio installed. I do radio installs. Uh, I don't do the whole running the wire, putting base systems in. That's not my thing. But her Poptronics is pretty good with that stuff. So. um, and but I told him because he wanted that in the backup cam put on his car, and I gave him an estimate, and he's like, "All right, well, how about just the radio?" I said, "Look," I said, "Justin," I said, "Look, man, give me this amount down, and then yeah, I trust you. I know you're good for your money because I've been working for him for like 2 years now. It was on his Volkswagen. I was working on his Volkswagen for the last 2 years, off and on. It's like one thing goes wrong, another thing happens. Fix one thing, another thing goes wrong.
Right.
Um, and so I said, look, just put down 150. We'll do the labor, put everything in, and then when you get paid again, just throw me the other 100. So he said, all right, I can do that all day. Yeah, because I know people got bills. I get it. People have bills. They times are hard and times money's tight. I get it. So if you do, just whoever's watching, if you do wind up calling me and you give and I do work for you and fix your car, if you become a regular customer of mine, I do opt for a payment plan. Depending on how much it is, the job is, depends if I have to have us sign an agreement. If it's like a big job, uh, and I've been working for you and working on your car or cars for a little while, and I trust you, and you're good for your money and your word is good, then we'll sit down, we'll negotiate and put an X amount of dollars down, and then we'll go from there. I do try to work with people. That is one thing about me. Um, so the payment plans are optional, and you still got your car. But no, seriously, you take it to a shop. You could put $500 down, but that job might cost you $2,000, and you're
Right.
not going to get your car back till you pay that $2,000.
Uh-huh.
So with me, what I do is, I might ask for a quarter down, yeah, but you're going to have your car, and then we're going to work out a payment plan, and X amount of dollars is going to be paid. This has to be done. So, and then eventually, what happens? And I had a kid, and I say a kid because he was a kid, and I did some work for him, and it was like $1,300 worth of work. So I told him, look, give me $400 down. We'll do this labor, and just $200 a week. That's fair enough. Well, $200. I think I said a week because he got paid weekly. I was like, can you do that? He's like, yeah, we can do that. So I had him sign the contract. But the thing is that he read it. I said, and I always tell people to read those contracts because the thing is if you don't pay that balance, I'm a businessman at the end of the day. I'm a very nice guy, but I'm a businessman at the end of the day. If you don't pay that balance and your payments have lapsed for a period of time, and I have not received any type of payment or communication, um, you know, I will have to put a title lien on it, a mechanic's lien, until that balance is due, and then if it's not due, if it's not paid off and doing it, and that's the nature of the business, sadly to say. But he wound up paying me the rest of the money, but I've never actually had to take somebody's pink slip from them, luckily, and thank goodness, because that hurts people. I do try to work with people, but that is, usually people don't want to lose their car to a mechanic. I mean,
Right.
but it is in the contract. It does state it. It says, you have X amount of time to pay. You're agreeing to this. This is, a mutual agreement between both parties. Both parties sign. You have a copy. I have a copy, and by X amount of time, it should be paid off. If it's not, then, yeah, I will try to amend it if like the person communicates, because shit happens, man. I get it. Of all people, I get shit happens, and unforeseen events may come and arise. So as long as you're communicating that with me, I'll
Communication
work
is
with you.
everything.
It's everything. It's always everything.
Right.
You know,
Today's times, life happens to different people in different ways.
oh yeah, for
And
sure.
at the end of the day, I try to tell people, at the end of the day, you don't know anybody's story. You really don't.
No,
And again, at the end of the day, it's okay not to be okay. But communication is everything.
I
You don't
mean,
have to tell me everything in detail. I'm not
mhm.
going to tell you everything in detail. I'm going to tell you what you need to know, and that's it. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yep.
Open, shut. There ain't
Like,
no open reading the story and then shutting it up. No, this is it. This
mhm.
is what it's going to be, and let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I do get receipts with my, with everything. Um, I'm very, particular, especially when it comes to the payment plan people. I get receipts because that it shows them that they paid X amount of dollars and it is still owing doing. Um, I like sometimes it's inconvenient for both parties to either meet at a certain location to pay the balance. So I do accept Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App. So I do accept all sources of payment that pertains to finance, money, um, electronic payment, and whatnot. But yeah, as long as my customers communicate me, I have no problem amending certain things and like communicating. And like I said, like you said, I don't need to know everything that's going on. It's like be like, hey, this happened. I need X amount of more weeks added onto the original agreement. And either I'll say okay, or I'll say, usually I'll say okay. But eventually you're gonna have to pay that off, because there are people out there, and it happens. And I had a gentleman who owed me $30, $30. That's it. And he drove his car home. It was driving fine, and then next thing you know, the next day, he had a BMW SUV. He didn't have a job. His dad was paying for all the labor. When I got to the car, it was not running. It was not running. I said, look, you need a new battery. You're going to need this, and this done. So we did all this, and the car was running fine. Started to drive the car because I couldn't test it. Couldn't test drive it, nothing. Started to drive the car. It started to overheat. So I said, look, I called him up and said, look, your car is overheating. It went like not even 10 minutes down the road, it started to overheat. I'm not going to be able to drive this to you. So I said, look, I'm going to park it at my house, and I'm going to fix it. But this is what's going to need to be done. So we did the thermostat and the radiator. We did a whole, cool and flush and all that jazz. And, I drove it to him. And then the next day, he's driving it. And I guess I don't know I don't know how people drive their vehicles, but it being a BMW SUV, me personally, I'd probably be hitting that pedal. I'm not even gonna lie. Because they got some kick in the ass. I mean, it is what it is. But I get a call, and he's flipping out on me like I did it, because he's upset because he blew his oil pump out. But his brother sold it to him because his brother already literally put 10 grand in it because it was having so many issues. And I always try to tell people, man, I'm like, look, your car a car is like your body. Okay. If you don't take care of it, it's not going to take care of you.
Thank you.
So when you don't do the necessary maintenance to maintain self, you get sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for a car. So if you're not getting your oil changed on time, like the kid I was telling you about,
Mm-hmm.
he had his car for like 2.5 years and never got an oil change.
You crazy
Just
as hell.
just added oil. Just that does not help. That does not work.
Not at
Just
all.
adding oil when you need oil does not work. So, but doing the necessary maintenance, and eventually a car it gets wear and tear. It requires maintenance.
10 or 11 pair.
But if you don't fix these things when it happens, and you keep going and going and going, what happens when you get a cold and you don't take care of yourself, and you don't rest, and you don't do the necessary steps to get better and
Your
fix
body
what
shuts
is
down.
wrong? Your body shuts down. Same thing goes for a car. It's the same thing. If you don't take the necessary steps to take care of your vehicle, you will not have a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's the sad nature of it, but that goes back to me saying I'm not a miracle worker. So if you're looking for me to come out and touch it and it works and everything's honky-dory, that's not probably going to be the case if you never done any type of maintenance to your vehicle, because there are people out there that don't do anything at all. The required maintenance to their vehicle, the necessary required maintenance, like oil changes, tune-ups.
Tire
And I try
rotation.
to tire rotation. I try to tell people, I'm like, look, you are supposed to get a tune-up every other oil change, especially if you have full synthetic. It's every other oil change. If you have synthetic blend, it's every third oil change. And you do a basic tune-up. Basic tune-up usually calls for an oil change, spark plugs, wires. That's just a basic tune-up. An advanced tune-up is if you have a distributor, it calls for distributor, wires, wipers, all the essentials. But I've had people tell me, "Oh, I didn't think I needed to get a tune-up." I'm like, they call me when their plugs are bad, but I'm like, "Have you ever got a tune-up?" They're like, "No, I didn't know I had to get one." I'm like, "How many oil changes have you done so far?" I had somebody tell me, "Oh, I think I did like 7 oil changes." I'm like, "You never had a tune-up?" And I'll be brutally honest with people. I was like, we're gonna have a lot more work after this tune-up, just so you know, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna have all these depositories in there, and then you're gonna have these O-ring and these gaskets and O-rings that are so used to getting this crud and and not getting the correct type of lubricant, that when they get that lubricant, they either get too lubricated or they get dry and hard and crack.
Right.
So, lube and tubes are like essential when it comes to a car. But I just lost you, Mark. Oh, there you go. Like, what's going on? But I've had people hit me up for some of the oddest things and tell me, and then want me to. They'll tell me what's wrong or what they think is wrong with it. And I'm like, look, I can't give you an estimate. I don't know. I'm not there. I can't. And then they're trying to send me videos. I'm like, look, I have to be there. Because people get really like, when they hear I charge a service fee. So I charge a $50 service fee. That's if I come out and no work is done and performed the same day. So if I'm coming out to do a service call, usually people need their code reader hooked up. if anybody's on here and they've taken their car to a shop, they know a diagnostics does not run $50. It runs a lot more. That's a service call. That's a service call for me. I call that a service call. I don't mind crawling on the ground and looking at the under the car and hitting putting the code reader on it and looking at the looking overhead and looking at the engine for you. I got no problem with it. It doesn't take that long. I'm not going to charge you $180 to do a diag on it. Just depending on what you're saying the problem is. Most of the time it's a check engine light. So, but these shops said, I'm not going to. I charge $50 if no work's done that day, and if work is performed that day and we're able to get it done, then it is what the labor is. But I've had people that are like, oh, yeah, yep, no, it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta get paid for my time too. Gas don't it's not like water, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap like it was 20 years ago.
No, not cheap like it was a couple years ago.
Exactly.
I mean,
you ain't even got to go 20 years ago. Go 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
6 months ago.
Right.
What? Right after the summer, it was low twos, high ones.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it went mid twos, and now it's like back up to threes. I'm like, oh. I'm like, I should have invested in some barrels, man, and just stocked up.
Right.
Stockpiled it. I don't just do mechanic work. I do body work. But hence the weather is everything when it comes to body work. You can't do filler and you can't do Bondo and everything when it's below a certain temperature. The compound doesn't work. It doesn't get hard. It doesn't, cure right. And all you're doing is you're wasting time and money at that time because you're going to pay for the supplies and try to do it. And she is an awesome customer of mine. And, so a Jeep hit her car, and this guy was going to charge her $4,500 to fix her car. And that was including the body work and everything else. And, don't get me wrong. I looked at the exterior of the damage. I didn't realize that the damage, and this fell at me, which it is what it is. I still have to come back when it gets a little nicer out and a little warmer and finish the rest of her body work because when we got around to it and when we got to it, it was getting colder. So, but she's already paid for her. I just got to go do it when it gets warmer. And I communicate with her and I let her know what's going on. And I told her if I can get a chance to take it at my buddy's shop after hours, then I'll let her know and I'll come get her car and we'll get it done. But if anybody needs body work that's like major body work, I do that too. I think, her jam, it was like right where the rear door meets the back panel, and but like the undercupping of it where the door rests. And she has this little car, and she loves her car, and it has the cutest name. You know her because you go into her work. So her car is named after a celebrity. We're gonna leave it at that. But no, she's a great person, and she's very understanding. And we kind of had to jerry rig it for right now. And I know that sounds puts a sour taste when you say jerry rigging, talking about mechanics and things like that. But what I mean by that is we had to. So because her panel, how bad the dent was, and with me putting that new door that wasn't jacked up on it, had no place to rest. So every time she hits a bump, it drops. So what we had to do was we had to lift it up, put something to where the little button, the sensor, like that goes in when you close the door that turns out the light. We had to wedge something against that. That's what we had to jerry rig, so the light doesn't stay on. But the door, it doesn't fly open or anything. It stays on. It's just because it still needs that undercoat, that under bottom, the lip, and it needs to be brought out. The side panel right there needs to be brought out more. It's not resting properly to where it presses against that little button sensor. So, but she knows that as soon as it gets warm, I'll be over and it'll get done. And I think she's just extremely happy that she has her car and it's running again and it drives, because the guy was like, oh, it's like, he's like, oh, it's going to cost you $4,500. And this is the note I just got. Can you see that? It says, I'm ordering pizza from Domino's. I got a gift card. But yeah, so but I have a very unique way of doing body work sometimes, depending on the severity of it. Now, don't get me wrong, if your shit is crushed in, like, and if I can't do it, once again, if I cannot do it, I'm going to tell you, I can't do it. I'm not one of these guys out there that say, oh, I can do it. I can't do it. You know, just trying to get that money. And usually, most of the time, I don't accept payment until after the job's done, depending on the job. And unless it's a major, big, expensive job, then I need a down payment. But if it's like, you know, something I know I'm going to get done in an hour or two or a couple hours, once the job's done, then you pay me. That's how I am. Same way. I mean, same way you would. But I tend to usually try to be cheaper or am cheaper than a shop because I don't have the overhead. I don't charge you for oil disposal. Has anybody ever taken their car to a shop and actually looked at the receipt? It literally says oil disposal. Yep. And so, or they put it under environmental fee. That's what they put on, environmental fee. So that's oil disposal. They dispose of your oil. I don't charge you to dispose of your oil. I just take it and I dispose of it. And I give it to AutoZone because it's free to give to them, and they get rid of it for me. Right. So I just drop it off at their back door. You know, that saves people a couple bones too. You know, that those extra tax on fees. You know, oil disposal, or if you have, unless you have a core and you're trying to get that couple dollars back for that core, I usually take the old part with me. I know a lot of people, they want to keep the old starter because it has a core to it, and they send it back to the place they got it from, or to take it back and they get the core. Same thing with a battery, you know. So depending on what it is, I mean, usually I take it with me. And whatnot, dispose of it, so you don't got to worry about some old part just shooting around the back of your trunk and shit, you know. But no, I mean, I'm pretty easy to work with, and I try to get it, like I said, I try to get it done the same day if I can. But I also have to work with the weather and the elements. I don't work on Sundays, and it's not because of religious. It's just literally that is the only day that I choose not to work. Excuse me, I don't work Sundays, and my hours start a little later every other Tuesday. So, but my hours usually start at 9 in the morning. So if you're gonna call me, please don't call me till after 9, because the phone won't be on. It will be on silent and do not disturb. But if I don't hear my phone though, I will get back to you at my earliest convenience. But I try not to overbook people either. But if I had to reschedule you, I will try to reschedule you the following day, or if I have something already pre-scheduled, then I'll have to bump you to the day after that. I mean, there's been times where I don't work on Sunday, but I've had to reschedule somebody that I had scheduled, and then I had another somebody scheduled the next day. And instead of pushing two people out, what I did was I said, hey, I'll see you Sunday. You good with that? So, and people usually are because they're going to be home and they're not doing anything. So I'll come out of my day off for a reschedule. Like if it's raining on the day, I'll reschedule and I'll push the person out till Sunday if I have something else booked after them. But I try not to do that. I try to get out to people and get it done because safety and road safety is everything when it comes to your vehicle. You don't got to worry about your tire flying off with me though.
What got you into mechanics?
So funny thing is I've always been tinkering around. I've always tinkered around my own vehicles. And I would help other friends with theirs, and I'm like, you know what? I like doing this. I like working with my hands. I like working with my hands. It's funny because before I started this company, I actually had a home remodeling and landscaping company. But because I'm a very, very small fish in a huge pond, and I didn't have the business ID and all that, so I couldn't do like insurance jobs. Now it's a different story when it comes to my mechanic company. I had the business ID number and the tax ID number and all that jazz. So I don't know. I just like working with my hands, and the thing about it is it's peaceful to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you step out of your house and you hear me cussing up a storm and cussing in your car, and don't think I'm crazy. It's just sometimes that works, but I got to talk shit to the car once in a while to make it work for me. It happens.
I don't know a mechanic that don't.
I mean, I can't count how many F-bombs I've dropped for, you might walk out of the house and say, you might hear me say, come on, you want to break for daddy. Like, you just never know. But, I mean, I don't know. You might hear cocksucker come out of my mouth. You just never know. So I do try to watch my language sometimes, especially if the person, the people that I like all people. I just don't care for the ones that want to hang over my shoulder while I'm watching me work. It's bothering. It's bothersome.
It's annoying.
It is. I mean, it's just annoying. And I don't say anything, but I'll literally stop working and just smoke a cigarette until you walk away. Like, because I just don't like somebody standing over my shoulder. Like, if you don't trust me working on your car, then don't hire me. And I don't have any cut cards, and maybe that's a problem sometimes. But I'm flat out, and I say how it is. I'm not gonna argue with you though. I'm not gonna like cuss you out or something like that. That's unprofessional. But if I think your car is a piece of crap, I'm gonna tell you, hey, you might want to get another car. This is XYZ is wrong with it. It's a piece of shit. It is what it is. I mean, I've had a few shit boxes in my time. Don't get me wrong. I usually tend to get rid of them because it's the smart, logical thing to do.
Yeah, it's not worth $10,000 into something that's not even worth $5,000.
No, I mean, back to that lady with the Hummer. She had a buyer. Her neighbor wanted to buy the thing, and he had the money to fix it up, but she didn't want to sell it. She just didn't want to sell it. Yep. whole time she could have took those tags and put them on the other car that she had. That all it needed was an oil cooler seal. Yep. Which is like turn the cab and go.
Exactly.
But yeah, I usually show up and I'll work on people's cars, and you know, I'll just, I don't know, it's something peaceful about it. It's just me and the car usually. Me, the car, my music. I don't gotta, I don't have somebody yelling at me, or or this or that. It's just, I don't know. It's peaceful to me. You know, it keeps me in shape too, because constantly cranking the wrenches um and whatnot. So it's just peaceful to me. I'm able to take certain frustrations out and relieve some tension of the mind and everything is when it's just me in the car.
Right.
I guess that's kind of why I like doing it. There are days where I'm like fuck this shit. I'm not gonna lie. There are. I mean, but who doesn't have a company? Sometimes they're just like, I fucking give up. I'm over it right now. Like, you have those days. I don't care if you own a company or you have a regular job. You have those days.
You do.
Where you're like, especially working on cars and being on the ground like I am, and not having the mobile lift at the moment. Some days I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to get out of bed, but I do because I know I got to. I do what I got to do, and I make it happen. But like I said, it's something, I don't know. And when it's just me,
it's
when
the
it's just,
type of job that not everyone can do it.
well, I mean, eventually, I'm not gonna be able to do my own job the way the
Right.
shit's going now, though. I mean, you're just gonna have to have a guy with a freaking laptop that writes code for a freaking living. Eventually, I'm gonna lose a lot of jobs because a lot more people are gonna go to electric. But you're gonna have those people that are like, fuck that noise. I like my my American muscle, my European whatever, my rice burners, however you want to put it. I like my gasoline or my, the way my engine is. I don't want some electric battery type of thing. I mean, there's people out there like me. Don't get me wrong. I had a ball. I had a side gig I was doing at nighttime, and I had to get another. I was waiting to get another car, and I've always made fun of Priuses because every time I've been behind a Prius, they've always drove so super slow. I'm like, man, they ain't got no power. This is what I'm thinking. Well, the guy I was working for, I was picked up a second gig because of slow season and everything, and he let me use his Prius, and I'm like, ooh, I want a Prius. I mean, that thing gets up. I'm not even gonna BS. Like I went from in a half a mile. I think I got up to 102.
Huh? In a Prius?
In a Prius. I lie to you not. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got up to 102 in a Prius. It was a 2021. Self-charging too. Loved it. Didn't have to stop and charge that, plug it in anywhere. It just by driving it charged itself, which it was very. I mean, dude, I went to Kentucky and back in the Prius on a full tank of gas. That's it. I filled up once.
Wow.
I filled up when I left, and then I had like a quarter tank when I got back.
Oh my god!
I mean, I'm not taking nothing away from the electric car or the partially electric car, but I mean, eventually, one day, hopefully, I probably won't be living when this happens. But I mean, it's going to be engines and gasoline cars are going to be obsolete. Sad to say, But what
I think
most
in
people don't realize.
California, they're trying to outlaw it within the next 20 years.
But here's the thing, and this is what people need to realize. Okay. So, all right, yeah, cars, gasoline, carbon monoxide gets released into the air. Pollution, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the batteries that run these electric cars pollute the air with more radiation and toxins than gasoline vehicles do. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because they rate what's a battery is ion. It's lithium, right? So when those things burn out, they're burning and they're working. There's no like these, especially the older models. They actually release more pollution into the air, more like waves of pollution, but it's not like smoke and things like that. Because you got to think, for every car, if you plant a tree for every car, well, one tree cuts down the pollution on every 2 cars, roughly. Don't quote me on that. But you got to think the more trees, the more oxygen, right? So if you have trees, then you have oxygen. But the gasoline, carbon dioxide only stays in the air for X amount of time. I mean, these waves that are being released by the batteries from these electric cars aren't always the safest either, to be honest.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You got me want to do some research now.
I know I'm in your podcast, but would it be okay with you, sir, as the host? Am I allowed to smoke a cigarette?
Go ahead.
I have to ask because this is your show, and I would like to be polite. I mean, it's not. Hey, I didn't say, hey, man, can I go do a bump real quick? I was like, hey, I'm gonna smoke a J in your no.
That's not allowed.
No. This is literally my. Well, we've had this conversation, but this is literally my only bad habit. I mean, it could be worse, especially nowadays with people.
Right.
So,
do you work on motorcycles?
I'm actually learning. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Like, there's certain things I can do. Like, I'll winterize it for you. I can winterize it for you. Because usually all that is it's basically the oil filter, drain the oil, fresh plugs. But most people don't realize. Like I had a motorcycle. I had a 2000. I think it was, I get no answer. It was a 2000 Yamaha B-Star 650 Classic. First bike. The guy that I got it from, he didn't do a tune-up when he got it, I guess, because when I did the oil change and the spark plug, the oil smelled like burnt popcorn. It's never good for a bike.
Burnt popcorn?
Yes. We all know what that smells like. I'm sure everybody's burned a bag once, here and there.
If you're making burnt popcorn, I don't want none. If you're making popcorn and it smells like that, I don't want none.
No. So and that's never good. So but I'm glad because before I started riding it, I did, I changed the oil, I changed the spark plugs. And I always tell people when it comes to cars or when it comes to anything engine wise, do a tune up on it. When you get something used and it doesn't come from a dealer, do a tune up on it. Do a basic tune up, which is oil plug, plugs, wires, oil change, oil filter. Do that because then personally that it's done, and you don't got to worry about it because you don't know what somebody else prior to you did to the vehicle. You don't know what's been maintained on it. I mean, don't get me wrong. my Volvo has a service record file of like this thick. So, but the problem was that I got it after sitting for 2 years. So it sat for 2 years. So all the seals, when a car sits for 2 years, seals tend to go bad. They get dry because they're not being lubricated. Too much or not enough lubrication crack seals all day long. But I got my bike. I when I got my M certs, I drove down to Charlotte. Bike drove great. Got back, had it on the road for maybe another few weeks, and I started getting this tick. Well, I took it to this spot, and I probably shouldn't have took it to them. And I never will refer this spot to anybody ever in my life, because I got my bike back and it was worse than it was when I took it to them. And because I had a small tick, and it was probably my lifter right there in the top of the engine. Well, these guys, they did a diag on it. That cost me $106 for the diagnostics to be run on it, which is only a V-twin, little V-twin engine. Yeah. But bike mechanics are harder to find because it's a lot smaller parts. But I wound up having to replace my engine because they cracked the undercarriage bolt. I'm driving on Father's Day. What was that, last year? Yes. Last year, and my engine splits from the stator across from the where the stator meets the engine all the way through my starter. And all the oil in my engine is poured out and hit my back wheel. I didn't go down. Luckily, I didn't go down, but I was in second gear. And on a bike that's a 650 in second gear, I was still going roughly, I just shifted down to second gear. So I was at like 45-ish. Because my bike, I was below 40. But you have oil flush that tire and hit that tire. I started fishtailing. Luckily I didn't go down though, but I might have to replace my own engine. So I learned real quick how to work on a Yamaha V-Star, and they're actually very easy and very simple to work on. Engine replacement, starters, minor things like that. I'll do. I'm not one to tear the engine apart, because sometimes, I'm gonna be telling you from experience, sometimes it's cheaper to get a whole new engine for your bike, or a good used engine for the bike, and it will be cheaper than obviously a car. To do the labor on one of those. They are a little more time consuming because it is smaller parts and it's a lot more, detail to them. And because if you miss one little piece in the right position or the right setting of something, it just doesn't line. You got to do it all over. So bikes are a little more tedious, but I do fool around with them. Usually it's not major internal work. It's minor minor work, I guess you'd say. So I mean, but I'll fool around with it. I'll fool around with them all day. Like I got a 650 Yamaha Kawasaki Ninja. Little 650 Kawasaki Ninja. I gotta put a chain on it. I mean, that's something easy. I just gotta order the chain. That's it. So.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question that has 6 different questions in it, maybe 7. With your cars, what's the oldest car you've ever worked on? What's the most exotic car you've ever worked on? What's the most expensive car you've ever worked on? What's the biggest, largest vehicle? Which now you're talking tractor trailers, buses, construction vehicles. What's the largest vehicle you've ever worked on? Street bike, Harley, your cruisers. What's the difference between the 2 bikes when it comes to the different maintenance?
Okay. So your first question was What's the
oldest car you've ever worked on?
Oh man, a '69 Camaro. Guy came out, said he knows how to do a starter, and he wound up creating a short in the wire of the starter. So every time he put the starter in, it would start outside the vehicle, but not inside the vehicle. So they had to do a whole new harness, and that thing was sexy. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I don't get a lot of I I don't get a lot of old school cars, or as we say, old school American muscle.
Right.
I don't get a lot of muscle cars, um, but personally, those cars are more expensive and exotic um, than the average car out there. And I say that because they are rare. They are extremely hard to find parts for.
Exactly.
You don't get aftermarket stuff for them. You have to get factory setting parts for them unless you're doing upgrades to them. So when it comes to three of your questions, personally and professionally, the '69 is the oldest, the most exotic, and the most expensive car I've worked on. Yep. And he just wanted to fix the starter so he could sell it. So I mean, but the biggest car I attempted, and I say attempted because it, it his threads just kept spinning. They were done. Guy had a big rig. He needed his what was it that needed it? His brake, his pad, or it was something. Something came loose while he was driving, and he didn't want to, because 18 wheelers, when they get, as soon as they get hooked up, their hookup's 100. It's like, it's super expensive for the hookup. And every mile, it's like, I think he said $100 for every mile. He said to get it towed to where he had to get it towed to would have cost him, like, I want to say, like, just to get it towed, it would have cost him like $5,000. So those, yeah,
Wow.
dude, it's because they got to have special tow trucks. They can't have the regular rollbacks or the regular
Exactly.
snatch and grab guys. They have to have a big rig tow truck come out and tow them.
And they're not cheap.
And it's not cheap. And I think the other biggest one I've worked on was it was an F-350 diesel. What was it? What was it? I can't. It was the supercharged diesel. I can't remember the exact name of it right offhand. It has a certain name to it. It's like the more higher end of the diesels when it comes to pickups. But I think, yeah, it's two-stroke diesel. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's another big one I worked on. I had to replace a glow plug in it. That's a pain in the ass. And I'm not a diesel mechanic. So, but it's easy to work on. It's a pain in the ass because everything, like, goes back to saying everything has to be exactly right. Exactly right. You know, but I guess when it comes to the difference between the cruisers and the crotch rockets or rice burners or whatever you want to call them, street bikes. So if you're opting to get, most people don't realize, you got these guys that rev their engines a lot. It's not healthy for any type of bike, whether it's a cruiser or a street bike. You're wearing down that clutch all day long.
And they do it all day long.
All day long. But what a lot of people do with the street bikes is they upgrade their clutch. they get like a super sport type of clutch in there, and they're able to do that a little more. That's why the guys that like get those one exhausts that like pop and backfire and sound like gunshots when they go ka 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 ka. Yeah, that's super bad for the engine. Super bad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super bad because what you're doing is you're holding out all that compression in and releasing it all at one time, and it's super bad for your pistons and your O-rings and everything else. Yeah, you can wind up blowing a rod right through the hood if you do it. If you keep doing it on a constant, regular basis. When it comes to a car, when it comes to a bike, you wind up just wearing your clutch out so hard. But the standard maintenance is winterization. I mean, the average bike doesn't, it just keep the main maintenance on depending on the bike. You have drive shaft driven, you have belt driven, you have chain driven. So most crotch rockets or street bikes are chain driven. Most Harleys are belt driven. There are some street bikes I believe that are belt driven also. The Yamaha V Star is a drive shaft. Personally, I like the shaft driven. Personally, because I don't have to worry about something stretching out or something breaking. A chain after so long if it's not lubricated, because those chains are only protected until you go so far back. So if it's not constantly lubricated with the chain grease, with the right amount of chain grease, it gets dry and it breaks. Belts stretch, so they tend to break, or they wear out and they slip. Uh, I personally like a drive shaft driven vehicle because most of the time you just got to replace the diff fluid, which is a heavyweight oil, every I think it's every like 10,000 miles.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like every 10, 15,000 miles. If I'm maybe more. But the maintenance on a vehicle, the main maintenance on a vehicle that you have to maintain if you take care of your vehicle and you're not somebody just revving your engine all the time and things like that. And you ride, and if you ride, then you want to do the winterization, which you're swapping out to a lighter oil base during the wintertime, because some people still ride during the winter, but when it gets colder, you want a lighter oil base because uh, in the summer that thicker oil it thins out easier than in the winter.
Right.
In the wintertime, you go with a grade down because it's not going to thin out as easy. Yes, your engine will still get just as hot, but it doesn't have the counter reaction that the sun's having on your bike also to thin it out even more. So it stays a little thicker. So in the summertime, you want to swap out to a thicker oil. Wintertime, the thinner oil. Change your plugs out. Change your wires out. Do the basic maintenance on a bike more or less, from my personal experience and working on mine personally, and knowing people that work on bikes and helping them work on certain bikes and things like that. But if comfortability wise, if you want to go, like people who want to buy a bike, and there's nothing better than being on the road, and the freedom of being on a bike. I will say one thing, and an old man told me this. He's like, there's a few things you need to know when you're riding. He's like, respect your bike, respect the road that your bike is on. Always, always be vigilant, because it's not you and your bike you really got to worry about. Because if you trust your skills of a rider, and you trust the road that you're on and the bike that your road is on, you have to worry about everybody around you.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me this. He said, "It's not if you lay it down; it's when you lay it down what you do next, because it's a whole different ballgame. When you're on two wheels compared to four,
It is.
It's a whole different ballgame. And I'm one to speak from experience. I mean, I have road rash. It's pretty fair now, but I have road rash. I was transferring lanes, and there was the road that was supposed to be straight had a buckle here and a ripple on the transfer, and my tire, the outer wall of my tire, hit it the wrong way, and with me being on a cruiser, um, the wheelbase is a little different than a street bike. So when I hit it and when I transferred, it buckled my tire just enough to where I lost and it went down. I got back up. I let go of my bike. I had highway bars on it. Thank goodness, because if not, it would have landed on my leg and would have dragged me. If you have a cruiser, the best suggestion for a cruiser or any bike really is to get a stabilization bar if it does not come with one, because the stabilization bar will stop that jerk that is possible when you might hit the oil in the middle of the road. And anybody that rides will always learn that you never ride in the middle of the lane, whether when it's cold. People that ride don't usually ride in the middle of the lane anyway.
No,
because that's where
they ride close to either line.
And the reason behind that is because cars take up the whole lane.
Exactly.
So when cars, they release all their fluids in the middle of the lane.
Mm-hmm.
The oil, their coolant, all the fluids. So when it rains, and it's very prominent not to ride in the middle lane when it rains.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, because you will go down. It's not an if. It's a fact. You're going to hit that oil slick, and it's going to take that tire out. And it's not about the back tire at all, because that fat boy back tire is going to hold you up. But that front tire, if that buckles and you don't have the stabilization bar, you're going to jerk. It's going to jerk. And if you're not ready for it, it's a split second. But it's I'm not trying to talk anybody away from riding, because damn, I miss my bike. I'm not gonna lie, I sold it. I got rid of it. It was just, if you buy a bike and you buy an older bike, always go with more miles on an older bike. If it has more miles, that means they rode it. That means they maintained it. If it works and it's an operating condition. So it's the opposite when it comes to a car, man. Older car, less miles.
Mm-hmm.
The less miles on a car when it's older, the better a car usually is. It means it wasn't abused like that. The bikes are different. The older the bike, the more miles you really want, because that means they rode it. That means they most likely maintained it. Like me being inexperienced when I got my first bike, I thought I was getting a great deal, and in hindsight, I kind of did. It was a great beginner bike. My Yamaha V-Star 650 Classic was a great bike to start with. I got him down to I think I paid him $1,500. It had 10,000 miles on it, and when I got rid of it, I put 2, and I only rode it maybe for 6 months. So that speaks. If I'm putting 2,000 miles on a motorcycle in 6 months, that says something. Because I love, like, if anybody knows me, they can ask me. My mom's, and every chance I got, I was on my bike. Every chance. If I was going to just do a dive, just to check out a vehicle, I'd take my motorcycle. I wouldn't even take my car. If I'm not doing a little labor on it that day, I'm taking my bike to look at your car. I'm like, I'm coming up on the bike, and me personally, because I'm a big guy. Street bikes aren't my thing. I mean, yeah, the one I got outside is a street bike, but I like to cruise. So me personally, I'm investing. I'm going to invest in another cruiser because I like to go long distance. And they're more comfortable, man. It's just more comfortable being on a cruiser. You don't have to worry about the lower back issue. Being a big guy like me, I'm what, 6'4", 260. I mean, a little crotch rocket is not. They call them a crotch rocket because it's a missile between your thighs. That's what it is. you're going to they go faster, but I mean they're also known to wreck a lot easier too than cruisers.
Right.
You know, and more people walk away from laying down their cruiser than they do their street bike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's sad to say because most of them are plastic. It's mainly plastic. The only thing on the street bikes that are really metal are the bars, the frame, and the engine. Everything else usually is plastic, and it's a higher CC engine, or it might be a lower CC engine, but the torque behind it is what gives that kick.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I went to Charlotte on my first cruise, man. I took it by myself. And once you get out of Maryland, it's drivers are a little more vigilant and respectful to riders. And if anybody rides, they know what I'm saying. Like, you know, the difference between a driver and a rider. A rider is on a bike, man, and you see him coming before. You know, we're supposed to see you before you see us. We're supposed to anticipate before you make that reaction. So we're always supposed to be in that mirror. And if you ever see a motorcycle behind you and say you're on somebody's ass, lay off that somebody's ass, because when you brake, they take longer to brake than cars because they got a downshift. Yes, believe it or not.
Oh wow!
Motorcycles take longer to brake than cars because listen, you have 4 pads, 2 wheels on a bike, right? And you still got a downshift to first gear, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're on the highway, here's a scenario. If I'm on the highway and I'm behind you and you're in a car and there's another person in front of you in a car and you're only traveling 2 seconds behind them, right? I might be traveling that 3 seconds behind you, right? But this where it falls into play. I have to look far ahead, far and close. So I have to look ahead of me and close to me because if I see red lights ahead of you, I'm going to start shifting down naturally. Right. But you never know if you had to slam on your brakes. You have to give the motorcyclist ample time to either have an escape, which he should always have an escape. But if he doesn't, sometimes it's not an option. Right. But that's why, like when I ride and I know I got a cruiser or a motorcycle on my side, or on one of my sides, or in behind me, I give them, you know, I slow down, and I do that for a reason because I'd rather him go around me see him, than him have to worry about me braking. Or if I'm behind one, I'll ease back more than I usually would with a car because I can slam my car usually on my brakes in my car and stop dead to rights usually if my brakes are good. You know, with a bike, it's not that simple. It's because if you lock them brakes up, you're going. If the motorcycle has the rider has to lock his brakes, he's going down. Because he'd rather go down and lay that bike down than hit the back of that car. Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, I've laid my bike down twice, and once, really both times weren't really my fault. I opted not to hit the girl because she just ran out in front of me, went to jog down to Fells Point. I had to right away. She looked dead at me, and no sooner did I start to turn than she decided to start jogging out in front of me. And me being a new rider, I didn't tap my brake. I was only in first gear, but I didn't tap my brake. I hit both brakes, and that was the worst thing. I laid it down, but it was like that movie Jack Reacher when he got out of the car and just let it keep cruising. I just stood up and let it keep sliding. it was like, yeah. So, but I mean, it's nothing fun it's not fun to go down at all. Whether it hurts you, it hurts the bike, you know. And then you're pissed, and you're like, oh motherfucker, you know. It happens though. It's going to happen. It's not like I said. It's not when it happens. It's or if it happens. It's when it happens. So I don't know. Yeah. Damn it! It's almost 9 o'clock, homie.
You watch wrestling?
I do.
The bike the Undertaker rides, what kind of bike is that?
I believe that is a. I want to say that's a soft. It's a Fat Boy. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Harley.
Is
Which
it?
one? Yeah, it is. It is a Harley. But believe it, you want to know something crazy? He really doesn't know how to ride. He just, if you look at some of the older American Badass versions of him, and then now, he doesn't know how to ride like that. He stays in first gear the whole time, and that's the worst because he's not going above 10 miles an hour. Yeah.
But that's
So
I mean, I get it. You know, it's TV, so it's a gimmick. It's a show, and
I mean, he does now, but he didn't before.
And that's not where I was trying to go with it. I was just,
oh yeah,
why are those bikes so far and in between?
Loud. What the
you don't see
the old school ones?
The ones that he rides with no back and it's like kind of long.
No. So here's the thing. All that is the it's just he doesn't have a queen seat on it. It's a single seat. It's a bob seat. That's all it is. And the rear fender is just a wider fender. That's all it is. Like I was gonna opt out to do that on mine. You're just making a single cruiser just for me. And yeah, it's Fat Boys don't usually have a seat. But I don't even think they make Fat Boys like that at Harley anymore.
What's a Fat Boy?
Harley. It's a brand. It's a type of Harley. You have soft tails. You have Fat Boys. You have
the real
Sportsters.
wide tire in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, but my mom was the Harley lady. She built a Sportster from the ground up with my pop. So that was her first bike. She loves the Sportsters. Sure. Yeah. Me, if I ever Harleys are overrated in my opinion, and I'm going to say that nowadays. Now they're overrated, and I'm going to say that because they're after your bike is so many years old, Harley would not work on it. They refuse to work on it. Yep. And yep. If your bike is certain amount of years old and it's a Harley, you got to take it somewhere else to work on it. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have an older Harley, you will find a mechanic to work on a Harley quicker and easier than you will be able to find a metric mechanic, which is usually Yamaha, Suzuki, things like that, the foreign bikes,
right?
Because of the way the bolts are made. It's the metrics are different. It's a metric mechanic, so it's like fractions instead of whole numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like 3/4 instead of a 8mm, for instance, or like a 3/4 wrench does this job for that bike but an 8mm or millimeters won't work because most of my bike was all the octagon shape. I can't even think of the name right now, or star bids and things like that. So it's like the metric bikes call for certain tools. So the mechanics for them are far and few in between. Okay. Metric bikes, yeah, and they cost more to work on a metric bike than a Harley, believe it or not.
Interesting. Well, I hope the audience learned something. I know I did.
I mean,
I learned a lot. I'm not a bike person, and at my age,
at your age with that beard, dude, all you got to do, right? All you got to do is get yourself a nice little cruiser with a king and queen seat, right? And I know how tall you are. So a 650 or an 1100 is perfect for you. And you get something with a nice little cruiser. Your game will like intensify tenfold. I lie to you not. They would just want to get on the back of the bike and take a cruise with you. Women love bikes. Doesn't
They
matter.
do.
Does not matter. There's a woman that listen. Bikes do not discriminate against. They're far from discriminatory when it comes to, uh, you know, race. All women love bikes. All women. I don't care where you're from, how you were raised. You know, don't get me wrong. Some women like street bikes better than they do cruisers. But the thing about it is, if anybody knows anything, um, more people are riding cruisers than they are street bikes now, because they realize that they're nicer. They can do more to them. The maintenance on them is easier than a street bike. They're safer, in my opinion. They are safer, and the comfortability is there. You can have your loud exhaust with your stereo system and still hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when people want to go long distance, and if you yeah, see it. If you want to crotch rock, you know how many breaks you got to take to go down to Ocean City alone?
Huh.
Because your lower back, that lower lumbar is going to kick your ass. So unless you're a young man, and I'm definitely not a young man anymore. I mean, I'm younger than you,
Hey, watch your
but
mouth.
he looks younger than me. No, I told him when I grow up, I want to have a beard like his. Though he got mad at me because I shaved mine.
Yeah,
He
don't
asked me,
shave
"What did I
anymore.
do?
Keep that
Why?"
joint
No,
going.
I'm gonna keep it this time. But I mean, no, if if anybody has any questions or concerns or like wants me to look at the vehicle, I'm gonna post
Shoot
my
all your information.
information.
Shoot all
I'm
your
gonna post my
information.
information on the site. I'm gonna post everything over to him, shoot everything over to him, and let him do his magic. And well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man. It took us forever to do this, though.
Well, one was one thing, and then last week was the
I
whole
know.
emergency thing, and
I know. I'm just ragging you, brother. I'm just jiving you, man. Just jiving you.
but
Man.
yeah, I'm glad we were able to finally get you in. Like
Yeah,
I
for
said, I
sure.
hope a lot of people learn something about their vehicle, about their bike. I know I learned a whole lot about both, especially bikes, because I'm not a bike person. Don't have one. Don't have the
Get one. Get one.
if I was ever to get one, it would be a cruiser.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not young no more, so I'm not trying to do all the speed and trying to be fancy. Um,
Like
I'm
I said,
I'm just
I
all
have that
about.
crotch rocket. Yeah, I have that crotch rocket, but I'll cruise around the city with that. If anything, if I keep it, probably sell it.
But yeah, shoot me all your information
Uh,
between now and then. Just give the people your Facebook and your Instagram so they can contact you that way.
uh, um, because I have a business Facebook. It's if you just my email is easybudgetautorepair@gmail.com. So if you like type that in on Facebook, it should pop up with a little mechanic guy holding the wrench with the black and white American flag in the background. It's Nicholas Smith. It'll say my name, but the business email is the little mechanic guy holding the wrench. So and then I don't even know what my IG is. About to show my dog my taser. I just show it to him. He thinks it's a flashlight. Yeah, I don't even know my IG offhand right now, to be honest. So because I don't use it that much. I use my Facebook and my contact more than anything. So,
Okay.
but I'll post everything to him, and then he'll have it up shortly, hopefully. So if he doesn't get off here and get ready to go out,
I'm gonna get me something to eat. I'm gonna take me a shower, and then you know where I'm headed.
Yep.
But we ain't gonna tell the audience that because they don't need to know all that.
Nah. You're gonna get some stalkers. Nah. All right, brother. Till next time, man. I hope to see you soon, man.
Likewise,
I know where to find you. I know where to find you, though.
Oh yeah, I'm not hard to find at all. Right down the street. Literally.
All right.
And you know where to find me when I'm not there.
Indeed.
All right. Love you. Appreciate you, man.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Or have a great weekend, man. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
This is a Skylyne Radio Talk Show on Be Exposed Radio every Friday from 7 to 9. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.